On the channel overview, you can see all of the settings for that particular channel. On the left here, you have an overview of your mix sends and also your matrix sends. You can turn them on and off here. You can see your level, and you can also tell if they are pre or post fader. Now, if you want to change that, you can simply touch here to bring up this window, which gives you a little more control over the mix sends. Here you can change them to be pre or post fader for your channel for that mix. You can also turn the send on and off, and you can also do an all pre or all post so that this channel is all pre or all post fader sends for that particular channel. Now, you can do the same on your matrix. You can turn them on and off when you have level, but you cannot change your pre or post fade. They're always going to be post fader. Up here you have library. You can store channel presets in your library, so you can store maybe your kick drum setting or your pastor's mics channel, things like that that you use commonly, and you might want to quickly grab them and pull them up on another channel. It's pretty simple. You just store find an empty slot and store your setting there, and when you go to store it, it'll let you name it. You can name it whatever you want to and store it. You can also clear out a slot if you want to, if you don't want to have that setting anymore. Over here you have your head amp control, and that's your preamp for that particular channel. You can touch here and bring up a little more controls. You have your 48 volt phantom power on and off here. This just shows your gain setting. You have your polarity switch, and here you can change the input that's actually patched to that channel if you want to. And then you can also touch here to change that. When you pull that up, you can change your patch. You can change the icon for the channel, the little symbol that shows up here, or you can rename it from this window. So that's a pretty useful window to get to. Below that you have your pan setting. It shows you what your pan is set to, and you can also assign it to the stereo output or the mono output or both outputs at the same time. And then over here you have two dynamics processors. To access those, just touch there and it'll bring up your dynamics window. You can select what kind of processor you want. You have a gate, a ducking feature, compressor, and an expander gate. And so just turn these on over here and set your settings from there. You also have a library for all of these different things, so you can store compressor or gate settings for things that you use pretty commonly. You also have your key input here, which is really useful for gating things. You can filter out the frequencies that you don't want to trigger that gate or compressor. Dynamics 2 works the same way. You have some different options here. Compressor is the same. You have companders and a de-esser, which is really useful on speech and on vocals. Over here you have your high pass filter. You can turn it on here, and if you touch there, it brings up the EQ section because the high pass is part of the EQ, and then you can use your knobs to actually change the high pass frequency. So that's how that works. Below this, and then over here, you have your EQ. You can see a small graph here, and you can see all your knob settings that you can control over here. If you touch anywhere in here, it'll bring the EQ up. And so from here, you can see all your EQ as you're doing it. Makes it nice and easy to see. A quick little trick on this: if you want to reset just one band of your EQ, if you press in the Q and the gain knobs, it resets just that one band. If you want to reset the whole EQ, you can hit flat, hit OK, and now it flattens everything out. You'll also notice you have the shelf features up here. So what this does, if you turn this on, your low frequency band becomes a shelf. So this just means that everything below the set frequency gets turned up or down. Works the same way in the highs. Everything above that frequency gets turned up or down. You can also make a low pass filter out of your high band. So when you turn this on, it gets rid of all the frequencies above whatever the set frequency is. Get rid of that. You also have an on, which is useful for comparing your EQ to see if you like it with or without the EQ. And then you also have different types of EQ over here. Type 1 is the traditional Yamaha EQ. It works, but it's a little sterile and doesn't really sound that great. Type 2 is a little more analog sounding EQ, and it's generally preferred. It generally does sound a little better. So that's there for you. I would definitely try the Type 2 EQ. Below here you have your insert. You can turn your insert on and off, and then if you click here, you can choose where you're sending your insert to, and you also have your direct out option here. So if you want to send this channel directly to an output for recording or any other use, this is where you would do that. You also have a direct out level, so you can control the level of your direct out. You can control your insert point over here, or your direct out as well. So if you want your direct out to happen after the high pass filter, click there. If you want it to happen after dynamics, you do it there. And then if you want it to be post fader and post on off, you can do it there. So that's pretty useful. Same with your insert. You can choose your insert point using this window. Below this you have recall safe. This will prevent this channel from being recalled in the scenes. So you can turn safe on, and then you can select all here so nothing will recall, or you can just select certain parameters. So maybe you don't want your head amp to be recalled, you can turn that on. Maybe you don't want your dynamics to be recalled, you can turn that on. So that's really useful there, just to prevent accidental mistakes. Below this you just have a fader indicator, and then your on off just turns the channel on and off. Over here you have your DCA groups. This is where you assign a channel to a DCA, so you can put it in whatever DCA groups you want. You can touch here to bring up the DCA group assigns, so you can select DCA group 1 and then select whatever channels you want to be in that DCA group. Same thing with mute groups. Select the mute group and then use the select buttons on the channels to assign them to that mute group. So that's how that works. You can also assign here on your mute groups.